Hi everyone, welcome back. We're going to continue on and finish off the color maps for these two different templates. Once again, I'm going to cover sort of the basics in these for both objects in the one video, because as I said previously, more or less the techniques are going to be the same for both. They're just a different layout basically. So I'm going to start off with the can, and then I'm going to shift across to the bottle. You can see here I've just added a little bit of extra detail onto the labels. What I've done is scanned a drink bottle label, which I peeled off a large 2-litre bottle of soft drink, and basically what I've done is scanned the barcode area off that. The original label is just here. You can see I've just used a Pepsi Max bottle, and what I've done is scanned these little emblems here for like the energy content, and then the actual barcode and the ingredients and so on, all of that information. And basically once I've got that in the image, what I've done is duplicated those layers and used the layer masks and kind of remove the excess of those labels. And what I've done then, so this one here is the barcode, which I'll just label there, and what you can do is set the blending mode here. What I've done is set it to screen, and what that'll do is remove all of the black out of the original image. If I set this back to normal for a second, you can see there that I'll just zoom in here so we can see this more clearly. You can see there that basically the original label was black with white text on it. So that's the section that I've cropped off that label that I scanned. And when you set the blending mode to screen, it will remove all the black and just leave the white. So it looks like this is now part of the original image. You may find on occasion, and it's doing it here, when you set it to screen, it actually doesn't quite remove all the black. You'll see like a very faint frame, especially over darker areas. You can see it just here. You might be able to make that out. I found that if you set this setting one higher to lighten, it actually removes that fringing a little bit better. But you'll notice that the text actually gets a little bit darker. So it's a little bit of a compromise there. Okay, you tend to lose a little bit of fidelity on the text, but you actually get rid of that sort of little bit of fringing around the outside. So you can set it up either way, but usually those work quite well. You can see that other blending modes, I'm using my scroll wheel to scroll down here. Overlay, for example, just gets rid of predominantly most of the white. It's almost like it gets rid of about 50% of the white value, but keeps all the black. Soft light, same thing again. Okay, so if you run through the different blending modes, you'll find one that would probably work the best. But generally speaking, white text on a black background, usually you want to use screen or lighten to get those blended out. So that's all I've done really. In between the videos, I've just kind of adjusted the positions of things and so on. So nothing really drastic there, and I've done the same thing for the bottle. I've just kind of done a little label layout for that as well. So now basically what we need to do is kind of just fill out the rest of the sections of the templates just with some form of color. Now some of this is going to be based on the materials that we'll be using in Maya to get a metallic or a plastic look, and some are sort of based on actual coloring that we need to add. So for the can, I'm going to start off with that. Basically all the rest of the sections of the can, the ring pull, the lip around the top, and the bottom and the top of the can are all just going to be an aluminium color. So what I'm going to do is basically just fill that whole area with a like a medium grey color, basically. So what I'm going to do in my layer panel, you can see here I've got this group with a label. I just have to put that barcode one in. Okay, whoops. So I've got this label group with all the barcode layers inside that. I've got this extra Pepsi Max one here, and I have those two there that I have to put into that group as well. So those are just the little liters icon and the little energy information icon. So those are in there. So that's the label. So now what I want to do is create another new layer. So I'm just going to just select my outline layer for a second, and I will just click the new layer button. And basically what I want to do here is fill in the areas of the other sections of the template and just color them gray on this layer. Now, because they're all basically going to be the same color gray, what I'm going to do is just do them all on one layer. If you have different colors for different areas, which we're going to see on the bottle in a minute, we'll probably do those on separate layers. So I'll just press F and go full screen on this just so you guys can see this a little more clearly. Okay, so I'm going to start off by just adding a little rectangle selection over the top of this strip here. So I'll just use the marquee for that. And starting just below the label area, I'm going to bring this down here like this. And then I'm just going to select sort of a medium grey. I might go about 60% grey for this. At the moment I don't know how bright I'm going to need the grey colour to be, but as we start testing the metal colour in Maya later on, we can come back in here and adjust this if we need to. So roughly about 60% grey, and I'm just going to use the paint bucket tool, which is G on the keyboard, and I'll just fill that in. And keeping in mind this is on this new layer. And then what I want to do is I want to do the same process for these three shapes just here, but rather than using a rectangular selection for the two circular areas, I'll click and hold on the marquee tool and select the elliptical marquee like this. Now, if you put your cursor in the middle of the first circle and click and hold the left mouse button down, if you drag, you can see that it starts drawing the circular selection from the center of the or from the position you clicked, and it'll drag out like this. While you're holding the mouse button down, if you hold shift, that will constrain the selection to a perfect circle. So what it's doing, it's locking in the horizontal and vertical dimensions of that selection so that they're equal. And then if you hold Alt down, it will then make the selection expand outwards from the position that you clicked. So basically what it's doing, it's the position you clicked becomes the center of the circular selection. So all you do then is drag out until your selection is slightly bigger than that area of the template. And you just need to go a few pixels outside that area. Something like that. So I'll just zoom in here. So you can see I've basically overlapped it slightly. Now it's going to be the same color. We're going to fill this in as we did with the rectangle. And because it's the same color, it doesn't really matter that this selection's overlapping with the previous one. So we end up with something like that. Do the same thing for this circle here. So just grab the marquee, click and hold in the middle of the circle, hold Shift and Alt and drag out. Now that's going to be Shift and Option on the Mac. Keeping in mind that if you have a close look at the Mac keyboard, at the Option key, it also says Alt. So that's basically the same key as on the PC. So we'll just fill that one in as well. Now you'll see down here there's a bit of an overlap. Okay, if you get something like that where it hasn't quite filled in properly, what you can do is just grab the brush tool just here, and because we're still on the same layer, it's not going to really matter, but you can just basically just brush over that a little bit. If you right click on the on there, you can drop the size down, and probably I'd increase the hardness just so that it's not kind of giving you a soft edge brush, and just kind of fill that in. Alright, that's just for neatness sake on here. It's not actually going to do, it wouldn't have done much on the actual model. Okay, so this randomized shape here, where it's sort of not a circle, it's not a square, what we can do with this is use the Polygonal Lasso tool. So if you click on the Lasso tool just here, you get this Polygonal Lasso tool. And basically what you do with this one is you just click, you click points. So what I'm going to do is just outside the shape, outside that area of the template, a few pixels out, I'm just clicking and following the shape all the way around like this. Now once again, because this is the same color, it's not going to matter too much if I kind of cut slightly through some of these previous areas like this. Now if there's areas where you want to go horizontal, you can hold shift, and what that'll do is snap to 45-degree angles. So along this bottom bit where it's kind of horizontal, nice and straight, you can hold shift down and it'll allow you to do a completely horizontal line. So all we do is just click all the way around until we get back to the beginning. So once again, make sure that you're keeping this selection just outside the template lines, and that'll give us a little bit of sort of excess bleed area or excess overlap, so we definitely don't end up with any little black areas poking through on our textures. Basically, if I was to kind of cut inside the template line or even directly on the template line, this black background color will show up on the texture in that area, so we just need to make sure we don't do that. Now with the rivet that's sitting here, because it's already inside this area, inside this selection that I've got, it's going to also get the same color, so we don't really need to worry about doing the rivet separately. It'll just color the same as the rest of the ring pull. So I'll just grab the paint bucket and we'll color that one in as well. So what we've got now is sort of the base material color for our aluminium, and then we also have the label area. So as far as the can goes, that's basically all you need for the color map. Now what I'm going to do is just deselect that. What we'll be doing a little bit later is basically creating a bump map, and we'll be using these areas, predominantly this one here for the bump map, but that's going to be like a separate thing. So I'm just going to grab this grey layer and I'm going to drag it down underneath the outline just there, and what I'll do is shift select the label group, and what I'll do is just group both of those again. So just go layer, group, layers, like that, and I'm just going to call this color. So that's basically our color map for the can. Now jumping over to the bottle, where things are slightly more complicated. Oops, that's not the bottle. That's the bottle just there. Okay, so things here are slightly more complex, okay, because we've got a couple of different material areas. With the can, it was just basically label and aluminium. With this, we've got clear plastic for the bottle, and we've also got opaque plastic for the lid. Now at this point, you probably want to choose whether or not you want like a colored plastic, or if you want just a kind of clear non-tinted plastic. So if you think about, like, say, a Sprite bottle, which is like a sort of a semi-transparent green, or like a Mountain Dew bottle, that's green as well. So what you would do in that situation is kind of color this green. Okay, if you were going to do a clear plastic, you could fill this entire area in with like a very pale blue, or even just a very pale grey. With my bottle, because it's got this green label, I might actually do it green. Sort of thinking about it in those terms. I've got my label group here, so I'm going to deselect, just clicking in this area, and I'll make a new layer. And then I'm going to grab my marquee, my rectangular marquee tool, and I'll drag a box around the main plastic bottle area. Now I've got to be careful here to not go over the label, and I want to also not go over this cap area just here. I have to be a little bit mindful. So if we zoom in here, you can see that my selection is just in between the plastic bottle and the cap template, and I've stopped right on the edge of that color pixel there for the label. So I'm not going to get any overlapping areas now. Okay, so for me, my bottle is going to be tinged like a green color. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select like a green. What I might do is actually use the eyedropper just here, and I'll select a tone of green off the label like this. So I'm using the same palette, and then I'll just fill that area in with a paint bucket like that, and then I'll just drag this underneath, and I'll call this bottle main. So I know that's the main bottle color. Now this would be semi-transparent when it's actually on the model in Maya. When we do a render, it'll be, you know, see-through. The other option, as I said, was that you can actually just do like a pale grey. If you want like a transparent plastic without any kind of color, so it's completely clear, you can just kind of use like a light grey color, like 20% grey or something like that. So it sort of looks more like that. That'll also work. I might actually do it this way and put some green liquid in the bottle, make it like a green coloured drink, because that would also match. Okay, so with this colour set, I want to do the same colour for the inside of the bottle here, and also these two pieces here. This is the thread and the bottom of the bottle. They all need to be the same colour as this. So I'm going to use my rectangular marquee again, and I'm going to select this rectangular piece here, and I'm doing this on bottle main. It's basically all the same material. I'll use the paint bucket again and fill that in, and then I'll do the same with the bottom of the bottle there. So I'm just going to zoom in on this, and this time I'll use the elliptical marquee. Start in the middle, click and hold, then hold down Shift and Alt and drag out until I'm a pixel or two outside the area, and then grab the paint bucket tool and fill that in. Okay, so now I want to do all the plastic for the lid, and once again this is going to be like an opaque plastic, so you can't see through it, it's not transparent. Let's have a look. I've already got the marquee, the elliptical marquee ready, so what I'll do is I'll do a selection on that, and I'm just going to do each of these circular pieces like this, and I need a new layer as well, new layer, and I'll call this cap main. So I know that this is the main color for the cap. Okay, so now I need to choose a color. Now I'm going to once again do an eyedropper, and I'm going to select a green color for my label. I want a pretty bright one, something like that. Okay, and I'll use the paint bucket and fill that in, and I'll do the same for each of these other pieces. So once again I've got sort of 3 circles that I need to do, and then this rectangle. So it's exactly the same process as all those other pieces we've done so far. So I'll just left click and hold, grab the Shift and Alt key, and then fill it with the paint bucket. Same thing down here. Now once again you need to be careful, at this point you need to be careful not to overlap the plastic over on the left hand side of this selection. So just here, and also not to overlap here. So you've got to be kind of mindful of your selections. If you need to fix the selection, just go up to select, deselect, and try again. Or what you can do is use the Polygonal Lasso tool. So what I might do is I might mess this one up that I'm doing. I'll just deselect it and redo it. So for example, if I bring this out but I go too far like this, right, so you can see that there. So this piece here is actually overlapping into the plastic. So if I left it like that, basically I'd have a clear bottle, or like a white bottle, and all this, there'd be a little streak of green on it. So what I would do here is switch over to the rectangular marquee and hold down the Alt key, and it gives me a little minus on my cursor. Okay, and when I drag a selection out, it will remove that part of the selection that I drag across, like that. So you can chop parts out of your marquee selections. So I could do the same thing down here, basically, like that, and just kind of chop that bit off. All right, so I could do it that way, or you can kind of, if you're able to, just do your selection to fit the first time. Sometimes you can't, and you've got to kind of chop little bits out. Okay, sometimes it's just not possible because there's basically no. You might find that your template is sort of like literally on the same pixel as the next set of or the next section of template next to it. So sometimes you can't do it that way. You can't do it perfect first, the first time all the time. So you can always go in and kind of chop bits out if you need. Rectangular marquee for this last bit. Now at this point I'm not overly worried about overlapping these this piece with the other parts of the cap because they will be the same plastic color. Okay, but I just want to make sure I don't go down over the label. And if you want, you can go right out to the edge of the document here because there's nothing else that's going to appear in, there's nothing else over here, so that's not going to matter too much. Okay, so we just fill them in like that. So I'm going to have a cap that's this color, and then that kind of works with my label. And I'm going to have a sort of just a regular clear plastic rather than a tinted plastic for this. Okay, so I'll just hit Command or Control D to deselect that marquee. And basically now what we would do is we would, probably create a like a little label that goes on top of the cap just here. So, like on a Coca-Cola bottle, it will basically say Coca-Cola or Coke. Pepsi would say Pepsi, or it would have like a Pepsi logo on the top. For this one, what I might do is actually just do a creeper face really quickly. So I'm just going to grab a new layer just here, and I'll use the marquee selection tool. Actually, what I might do is I'll use the Polygonal Lasso tool, and all I'm going to do is just holding Shift down, I'm going to just trace around this creeper face. Okay, this is pretty rough, it's a little bit dodgy and it's not exact, but you kind of get the idea. It'll be okay on the actual object. Now normally what I would probably do with this, rather than using this lasso tool, another way of doing it would be using the pen tool, which is just here. And what this will do is draw a path, and if you set this button on just here, it'll actually create a shape layer and color this in at the same time. Otherwise what you do is you do it this way. So what I might do is show you both ways to do this. So I'm just going to switch this around to create white, a white color, and that's my empty layer. Okay, and what we do is just fill that in with the paint bucket like that. Okay, so the difference between doing it with this and the pen tool is that if I take this now and I move it using the move tool over here like this, so I want to just kind of center that in the middle of this circle. Okay, if I scale this up and down, it will rasterize, it'll pixelate. So, like if I bring this down like this, okay, that's going to be okay. It's not going to pixelate too badly. Let me just turn that off. There is a little bit of pixelation on that. Okay, that's what it looks like at actual size. That's 100% size. But if I need to scale that up again, and I do this, okay, see how the edges have gone all blurred? Once again, it might be a little bit difficult to kind of see that on the recording. But basically, I've got these fuzzy edges now. If I use the pen tool to do the same thing, so if I go to the pen tool, set it to shape layer, and I just click and hold Shift down, what I might do is actually bring it around this way. I think I might be able to do it this way. You can see that it's actually filling in as we go, which is a really, really nice way of doing it. So essentially what I'm doing here is creating a vector path, and this is sort of the same way as you would create a shape like this in Illustrator. Okay, Illustrator is a vector system. Now the great thing with this is, because it's based on a vector path, you can scale the vector path up and down as much as you like, and it will always refill it exactly, and you don't get that pixelization that you do when you're scaling a raster image. So a raster image is basically where you've got your just pixels colored in, like that first face I did. Okay, so if I shrink this one down like this, so I'm just using edit free transformations there, free transform, which is Control or Command T. Okay, if I grab this again and I scale it back up, it's still got sharp edges. It's not blurry like this first one. So that's the benefit of using a, for something graphic like this, where it's a logo or something, the benefit of using the pen tool and actually drawing the shape out like that, rather than just filling in areas with the bucket tool, the paint bucket tool, is that the paint bucket tool, if you try and rescale that that layer afterwards, you will end up with pixelated a pixelated image. Whereas with the pen tool, as long as that path is still active within the object, basically you can scale it up and down as much as you like, and it will always resharpen afterwards. Okay, so that's the color map for the bottle. So at this point, what we do is we save the images. So I'm just going to save, we'll save both of these images now. Okay, so I'll go File, Save As, and normally what I'll do, obviously we've been working in the PNG we exported out of Maya. I just need to double check which one I'm in. I'm in the can. Okay, so that's a can image. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go up one folder level. So this is my project folder, and I'm going to go down into the source images folder. This is where Maya is going to look for the texture. So we need to save the file into here. So I'm going to start off by renaming it. In this case, I'm going to call this can master in capitals, and I'm going to leave it as a PSD. Okay, and save that. And I do the same with the bottle. Okay, then what I do is I go File. First things first, I need to turn this outline layer off to hide all the lines. Then what I do is go File, Save As. There it is. And I'm going to change the file type. And for this, I'm going to change it to a TGA, a Targa file. And the reason I'm doing that is that a Targa file basically is it's more or less uncompressed. So I'm not losing any of the information. Technically, you could use a JPEG or something like that, but you might find with a JPEG, you get artifacting. There is actually a little bit of JPEG compression on this image that I downloaded as this sample texture. You can see these little rings here on the picture, and that's from the JPEG compression. With a Targa file, it's a large file size, but you won't get that compression. So with this one, I'm going to rename it Color, like that. Now, don't forget, turn off your outline layer first before you save this one, because otherwise your outlines will show up on your texture and then it'll look a bit goofy. Okay, so can color Targa. When it gets this Targa options, just leave it on 24 bits. Don't switch it to 32 bits for this, just 24 bits per pixel. Just hit OK. So what that's done is created the file that one of the files we're going to install or import into Maya, and that will create the texture on our can. So I'll just quickly do the same thing for the bottle. So I'll go File, Save As, and just double check that it's going into the bottle. Yes, it is. Okay, go up one folder into the project folder, down to source images, change the name to master. So this is our master working file. Make sure it's a Photoshop PSD, and then save it again as a Targa. So File, Save As, and change it to a Targa. Whoops, didn't like that. Okay, and then change the name to Color. Here we go. So basically, yeah, this is going to be the color map. Okay, just hit OK for those. So in the next video, we're going to create bump maps for all of our areas that we need to have bumps for. So on the can, that's going to be this area of the can, and that's going to be relatively easy. And on the bottle, we need a bump map down the cap. And if you want to have maybe kind of indented grooves and patterns and things on your bottle. We'll probably do some up here as well, over on the bottle. So I'm going to leave this video here, and I will see you for the bump mapping creation in the next video. I'll see you then.